Hey there Summoners, I'm Brakar, and this is part 1 on my guide on how to play AD Malzahar in the jungle. For my runes I like to run 3 attack damage quints, 9 attack damage reds, 9 armor yellows, and 9 flat cooldown reduction blues. As far as the masteries are concerned, I'll usually just run 21 in the offense tree, taking the ones relevant to attack damage, and 9 in the defense tree. These can vary a little bit depending on what you want to do, but the most important one is sorcery for the 5% CDR. CDR is just so incredibly important when you're playing Malzahar in the jungle, mostly because you just get more voidlings out, and those are your entire source of damage, because you can't auto-attack that much. And if you're ever hoping to take a dragon early, which you can do around level 4 if you have the right CDR plus blue buff, so I highly recommend it. So as we're starting the game, you'll want to buy your Hunter's Machete and your Warning Totem, but do not buy potions. This is very important and I'll explain later. But after that, you'll want to start stacking your Q. Well, not your Q, but your passive, while you're in base. You'll want to get up to 3 stacks, and once you do that, you will start walking out to Gromp, after you let your mana recharge a little bit. Alright, so the reason we didn't buy any potions is because we're going to start at Gromp, take him, and then go immediately to the wolves, take those, and then we'll back. And since we didn't buy potions, we will have exactly 350 gold as we back to buy your rangers. And then after you get that, you'll then take blue, and it'll be a lot easier. Trust me. Now I've done this before patch 5.1, but it's even more effective now since the tier 2 jungle items now give 10 more gold than they used to on large monster kill. So you'll be wanting to get that as soon as possible, just because that gold does add up, and it can equal wards, or potions, or anything really. Since Malzahar relies so much on spamming abilities, getting rangers early can help him sustain his mana even longer than blue buff can. So that is one reason you'll want to get that as a first item. So as Gromp is about to spawn, you'll want to summon your Voidling at around 1 minute and 46 seconds, because this gives it enough time to evolve to its second rank, which has 150% AD scaling, helping you take out Gromp even quicker than usual. You'll then want to immediately Q and smite Gromp. Now your Voidling can take a few hits on its own, usually about 3 or 4, but you'll want to step in and manually take the aggro so that your Voidling doesn't die early, because it puts out a lot more damage than you do. After this, you run straight to wolves, and then QE it. You'll have to fight them yourself for a little bit. Then use your abilities the second they come off cooldown, and you should get another Voidling just in time to fight the wolves. Now I let this one die. I probably should have stepped in there and took the aggro myself, but it doesn't really matter because I still back in the same amount of time. And anytime you're about to back, just start casting off abilities, because you'll want to have your Voidling stack at 3 at any time. And notice I'm doing this in the fountain as well. With the new ability to swap out your jungle item before it's enchanted, it makes it really effective to get a Rangers early and then swap it for the Stalker's Blade later. The AoE smite really helps out in the early game, in addition to the extra sustain you get from the upgraded smite. It just helps out the junglers that struggle a little bit, and until they can get some items built. Notice that I summoned my Voidling again on my way to blue buff, so that it will upgrade during the fight and do a lot more damage. The stun from Rangers is really helpful getting the Voidlings to live longer, and also taking less damage yourself. Now once you get blue buff, you can pretty much go about your jungle and do pretty much anything now. I'm currently on my way to Wraiths. I can take those no issue as long as I swap the aggro correctly. With Smite now stacking up to 2 charges, it makes it even more effective to get Stalker's Blade once you get started in the jungle. I'll usually pick that up after my first clear now. Note how healthy I am after fighting both blue buff and Wraiths. The Voidlings just tank so much damage for you, it saves him so much life. Now you're going to want to smite red buff, because this will give you the health and a little bit of mana that you need to clear wolves and Gromp again. At this point, you can also choose to gank a lane if you notice that somebody's pushed up. This relies really heavily on landing your Q. If you don't do that, it's pretty much useless. You can sometimes force a flash because it is a 2-second silence. That is if you hit it. Most times you'll just end up farming until 6, at which point your ganks become almost a guaranteed kill. I could have probably backed after wolves to get my tier, but I decided to do Gromp just to get that extra little bit of money and to completely clear my jungle. So after about a clear and a quarter, I'm able to purchase my tier, a pink ward, and a potion.
Do not challenge fate.
Make that 2 potions. We're later going to end up turning that tier into a Manamune, but for the moment we're going to leave it as is and prioritize getting our warrior enchantment and a last whisper. Also, it is at this point that I would most likely be swapping my rangers for a stalker's blade, because it would be prime time for ganks.
Icathia beckons.
As you can see, I'm heading straight for dragon. Seeing as my jungle's entirely clear, there's nothing else I can do aside from either take dragon, help a lane, or counter jungle. And since I can solo dragon at level 4, there's really no reason I shouldn't be doing this. Notice how, as I'm fighting the dragon, I'm swapping the aggro between my voidlings and myself to make sure that they stay alive and deal maximum damage, while also spamming my abilities as often as possible. And dragon is now dead, and I still have half health and a voidling, which I will then use to fight the scuttle crab, giving my bottom lane a little bit more extra vision to help them out. This is a good time to mention that you don't really need to kite as AD Malzahar when you're fighting champions, because if you have any voidlings out, they'll do the work for you and you can stay really far away and incredibly safe. This helps make up for the fact that Malzahar doesn't have any mobility whatsoever. That's also one of the reasons you'll want to be getting mobility boots pretty early. I usually get them after I finish my warrior enchantment. Well, unfortunately that's all I can really teach using a custom game, so this concludes part 1 of my guide to AD Malzahar. Next time I'll talk about builds and give some examples from a real game.